Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into the world of construction, but we're looking at it a little differently. Not just as a process for putting up buildings, but as a whole series of really crucial environmental choices. We're going to follow a building's entire journey from a simple patch of dirt all the way to a finished structure, and we're going to see every single step through a green, sustainable lens. So let's just kick things off with a huge idea. What if a building could do more than just, stand there? What if it could actually help heal the planet? I know, it sounds pretty ambitious, but this is the idea that's really driving the entire future of construction. Because that whole healing process, that sustainable way of thinking, it doesn't begin with a bulldozer or a cement mixer. Nope. It all starts right at the very beginning, in the planning and the design phase. The choices you make here, they set the tone for the entire project. So let's look at that first phase, what we're calling the green building blueprint. This is where we literally design a building's sustainable DNA before a single worker ever steps on site. Okay, so what exactly is a green building? Well, as you can see, it's all about minimizing the bad stuff and maximizing the good stuff, efficiency in energy, water, and materials. But the real kicker, the key phrase here, is entire life cycle. That means from the very first napkin sketch to the day it's eventually torn down, maybe 100 years from now. It's a complete A to Z approach. But how do you actually prove a building is green? I mean, who's keeping score? That's where these global rating systems come in. Think of them as the official rulebook or a report card for the building. You've got BREEAM over in the UK, LEED, which is huge in the US, and Green Star down in Australia. Each one gives builders a super rigorous checklist to make sure a project is truly sustainable, from its energy use all the way down to its pollution. All right, blueprints in hand, so it is time to break ground. This brings us to our next phase, sustainable site preparation. Now, you might think this is just about digging a big hole, but even this very first physical step is absolutely packed with green opportunities. Yeah, this is so much more than just digging. Sustainable excavation is a careful, almost surgical process. I mean, look at the details here. You're using low-emission machinery to cut down on pollution right away. And that rich topsoil, you don't just chuck it, it's carefully saved so it can be used for landscaping later. And get this, using GPS guidance on the equipment makes sure every scoop is precise, which prevents wasted fuel and time. Every single move is deliberate. And now for one of the biggest players, maybe the biggest player, in construction's carbon footprint, concrete. This section is all about greener concrete foundations and how we're completely reinventing this material that we use for, well, everything. To really get the challenge here, you gotta talk about cement. It's the glue that holds concrete together. Making traditional cement is incredibly carbon intensive, but just look at this number. By switching to alternatives like CSA cement, which can be made at way lower temperatures, we can slash CO2 emissions by up to 40%. That is a massive difference. And this table just lays it all out perfectly. We're moving away from that old model on the left, the high-carbon, resource-hungry way of doing things. The future, over on the right, is all about lower emissions and a circular economy, using industrial waste products like fly ash or volcanic ash to create concrete that's not only greener, but a lot of the time it's actually stronger and lasts longer. Okay, so before we pour that main, super strong foundation, there's this little preparatory step. It's called foundation blinding. The easiest way to think about it is like laying down a clean, perfectly level work mat at the bottom of the trench, so the real foundation can be built perfectly on top of it. Now, you might be thinking, this seems like such a minor step, who cares? But this right here is what sustainable construction is all about, the details. Just look at how many green choices you can pack into this one tiny process. We're talking low-carbon cement, recycled bits from old buildings, and even mixing it all with harvested rainwater instead of clean drinking water. It just goes to show no step is too small to make a difference. Okay, our foundation is set. Time to move on up. Let's focus on building the ground floor. All those same principles of being resourceful and efficient just keep on going as the structure finally starts to take shape. So creating the floor slab is kind of like building a layer cake. You start with a solid foundation of hard core, which is often just recycled rubble. Then comes that thin blinding layer for a perfectly smooth surface. But pay attention to step 3, the formwork. That's the mold for the concrete. Instead of using wood you throw away, we're using reusable steel or plastic molds. Then you pour in our green concrete mix and let it cure, which brings us to our next point. And yeah, let's talk about that last step, curing. Curing is basically just making sure the concrete dries properly so it gets as strong as possible. But even here, we find little opportunities to be green. Instead of just spraying it down with fresh water all day, we can use that harvested rainwater and cover it with biodegradable tarps that lock in the moisture. It's just smarter and way more sustainable. The structure is really coming together now. Let's get some walls up. In this last section of our explainer, we're going to see how the very blocks that make up the building can be a huge part of the solution. This slide really shows the fundamental choice we have. On the left, you've got your traditional bricks, which are fired in a kiln at insane temperatures, using a ton of energy. But on the right, you've got a whole menu of smarter options. We're talking stabilized soil blocks, which are basically just compressed earth, or bricks made from fly ash, which literally turns industrial waste into a building material. Even the mortar holding it all together can be made with low-carbon cement. And this quote, it just brings it all home, doesn't it? The integrity of a modern, sustainable building isn't just about how strong its concrete is or the quality of its steel. It's about the intelligence, the foresight behind every single one of those material choices. And that's really the main takeaway here. From the blueprint to the final brick, every single stage is a new opportunity. Each choice, how we dig, what we mix, how we build, it's all a chance to create a more sustainable, more responsible, and ultimately, a healthier world for all of us. Which kind of brings us to a final question. After seeing all these intricate steps and all these thoughtful decisions, what is a building really? Is it just a shelter or just an asset on a spreadsheet? It's a collection of choices, thousands and thousands of them. And the most exciting part is that today, with the knowledge and the materials that we have right now, we can consciously make choices that all add up to building a fundamentally better future.